In the modern age, we are sold the illusion of safety. We buy cameras that see in the dark, locks that obey our voice, and sensors that track every heartbeat within our walls. We build digital fortresses to keep the world out. But we rarely ask the most terrifying question of all: when you connect your home to the cloud, who else holds the login key? Tonight's story is a reminder that sometimes the technology meant to protect us is actually just a window for something else to look inside. Elias stood in the center of the living room, the smell of fresh paint and lemon polish stinging his nose. It was too good to be true, and deep down he knew it. The rental market in Colorado was brutal, yet here he was, standing in a two-bedroom detached guest house in a pristine subdivision for half the market rate. The landlord, a faceless property management firm operating out of Denver, had sold him on the amenities. The house was a smart sanctuary, fully integrated with the latest OmniLink security ecosystem. He pulled out his phone, tapping the app the management company had instructed him to download. The interface was sleek, a dark mode aesthetic with glowing blue icons representing the eyes and ears of his new home. Living room cam, backdoor cam, smart lock, thermostat. It felt empowering. He tapped the user's tab to change the password, intending to wipe the default settings. That was when the first drop of unease landed in his stomach. Under the list of authorized admins, below his own name, was a grayed out icon. It didn't have a name, just a string of binary code that flickered when he looked at it. He tapped Remove User. The app spun a loading wheel for 10 seconds, then flashed a red error message: cannot remove legacy admin while system is active. Elias frowned, assuming it was a landlord override account, and tossed the phone onto the couch. He had boxes to unpack. The first 3 nights were uneventful, save for the settling groans of the house. It was on Thursday that the technology began to misbehave. Elias woke up at 3:14 a.m., his breath visible in the air. He was shivering violently. He fumbled for his phone, the screen blinding him in the darkness. The OmniLink app showed the thermostat was set to 50 degrees. He swore under his breath, adjusting it back to 70, and checked the activity log. 3 a.m., temperature adjusted manually by user. Legacy. A cold sweat that had nothing to do with the room temperature broke out on his neck. He messaged the property manager immediately, demanding they reset the system permissions. No reply. He tried to sleep, but the silence of the suburbs felt heavy, pressed against the double-paned windows like a physical weight. 2 days later, Elias was at the grocery store when his phone buzzed. It was a rich, vibrating notification that indicated high-priority motion. He pulled his cart to the side of the cereal aisle and opened the notification. Person detected, front door. He watched the live feed. The video was crisp, 4K resolution. The front porch was empty. The wind chimes were still. There was no one there. He was about to close the app, dismissing it as a glitch, when he saw it. The digital overlay on the smart lock turned from green to red. The deadbolt physically turned. He watched, helpless from 5 miles away, as his front door creaked open, exposing his hallway to the afternoon sun. He stared at the small screen, waiting for a figure to step inside. A burglar. A prankster. Anyone. But nobody crossed the threshold. The door simply stood open, gaping like a mouth. Elias rushed home, speeding through the winding suburban streets. He cleared the house room by room, clutching a heavy flashlight like a club. Nothing was missing. No laptop stolen, no drawers rifled through. He called the police, but without signs of forced entry or a perpetrator on the video, they filed a report and left him with a sympathetic shrug. That night, Elias sat on his couch, staring at the main hub mounted on the wall. He had disconnected the Wi-Fi router, hoping to sever whatever connection the legacy user had. But the OmniLink system had a cellular backup. The blue ring on the camera in the corner of the living room was pulsing. A slow, rhythmic heartbeat of light. He opened his laptop and did what he should have done before signing the lease. He searched the address. It took digging through archived local news, but he found it. The previous tenants, a young couple, hadn't moved out. They had vanished. The police had found the house unlocked, their dinner cold on the table, and no digital footprint left behind. The case was cold. Thunder rattled the window panes. A storm was rolling off the Rockies, bringing heavy static to the air. Elias's phone buzzed. He jumped, nearly dropping it. The Wi-Fi was down, but the cellular backup was pushing a notification through. Microphone active, living room. Elias froze. He was in the living room. He wasn't speaking. He opened the app, his thumb trembling. He tapped on the listen function for the very room he was sitting in. The audio feed kicked in, a slight delay creating a disorienting echo of the thunder outside. But under the thunder, there was a sound coming from the camera's speaker. The small, mesh speaker built into the device mounted near the ceiling was a voice. Not robotic, but degraded, as if transmitting from a great distance or a bad frequency. "Is he seated?" the voice whispered. It sounded like a woman's voice, wet and strained. "Yes," a male voice replied, also coming from the speaker. "He is looking at the phone. He sees us listening." Elias stood up, his heart hammering against his ribs. He looked at the camera. The blue light turned solid red. They were broadcasting. "Who is this?" Elias shouted at the camera. "I'm calling the cops." On his phone screen, through the app, he heard his own voice echo back a second later. Then the male voice on the speaker laughed, a dry, crackling sound. "The cops couldn't find us, Elias. We are part of the architecture now." "Open the door," the woman whispered. "Let the guest in." Click. The sound came from the front door. The smart lock had disengaged. Elias backed away toward the kitchen, grabbing a knife from the block. "Stay out," he screamed. He glanced down at his phone. The camera feed showed the front door swinging open. The storm was raging outside, rain lashing the porch. But no human stepped in. Instead, the motion tracking software on the app, the little green boxes that highlight movement, began to populate the screen. A green box appeared in the empty doorway. "Target acquired." "Forward," the male voice commanded from the speaker. 3 steps. "Watch the rug." The green box moved. Something invisible, something that displaced the air enough for the sensors to register but not enough for the human eye to see, was walking into his living room. "To the left," the woman whispered. "He has a knife. Circle the sofa." Elias swung the knife wildly at the empty air, backing up until he hit the stairs. On the phone screen, the green box was gliding around the coffee table, flanking him. The camera was acting as the eyes for something that couldn't see in this dimension. The legacy users were guiding it. "He is running," the male voice said, devoid of emotion. "Lock the back exit." A distinct thud click echoed from the kitchen door. Elias scrambled up the stairs, his breath hitching in his throat. He ran into the bedroom and slammed the door. He didn't have a smart lock on the bedroom door, just a flimsy privacy lock. He engaged it and shoved a dresser in front of the wood. He sat in the corner, phone clutched in his hand, hyperventilating. He needed to see. He needed to know where it was. He swiped to the upstairs hallway camera. The feed loaded in black and white night vision. The hallway was empty. Then, at the top of the stairs, the green motion box appeared. It hovered there, distorting the pixels. "Bedroom 1, the woman's voice crackled through the hallway camera speaker. "The code is 0-0-0-0. It is not a smart lock. You have to push." Elias watched the screen in horror as the handle of his bedroom door began to turn. The wood groaned under immense pressure, bowing inward against the dresser. "Push harder," the male voice encouraged. "He is trembling. I can hear his heart on the sensors." The wood splintered. Elias didn't wait. He grabbed the heavy lamp from the bedside table and smashed the window. The storm roared into the room, wind and rain stinging his face. He looked at the phone one last time. The camera inside the bedroom, the one pointing right at him, had activated. The green box was right in front of his face on the screen. "Found you," the voices whispered in unison through the camera. Elias jumped. He hit the wet grass of the backyard, rolling and snapping his ankle, but the adrenaline masked the pain. He scrambled over the back fence, limping into the neighbor's yard, and didn't stop running until he reached the 24-hour gas station on the main road. The police arrived 10 minutes later. They found the front door open. They found the broken window. They found the knife on the floor. But the house was empty. The OmniLink system had been physically ripped from the walls, the wires chewed through. Elias never went back. He stayed in a motel on the edge of town, paying cash, terrified of anything with a Wi-Fi signal. On his second night at the motel, lying in the dark, his phone buzzed. He had forgotten to delete the app. He stared at the notification, his blood turning to ice. Notification: new device added to network. He hadn't connected to any network. He touched the notification. The app opened, bypassing the login screen. It showed a camera feed. But it wasn't the house. It was a grainy black and white view of his motel room, taken from the lens of the smart TV mounted on the wall opposite his bed. He saw himself sitting up in bed looking at the phone. The TV turned on by itself. The screen remained black, but the audio crackled to life. "Why did you leave, Elias?" the woman's voice whispered, clearer now. "We were just getting connected." And that is why, to this day, Elias covers every camera lens with electrical tape. We invite these devices into our homes for peace of mind, but we forget that a camera is a two-way street. If you can see out, something else can see in. If this story made you check your own locks, do me a favor, hit that like button. It helps the channel more than you know. And if you are brave enough to hear what happens next, click that subscribe button. Tell me in the comments, do you trust your smart devices? Or are they listening right now? Until next time, stay disconnected.